Of council open. Welcome everyone along, and no apologies. I'll start with my usual announcement. I declare the meeting open. Welcome all those present, and that the meeting of council is being recorded to assist in the preparation of the minutes and ensure a true and accurate record and account of debate and discussions at the meeting is available. Also, an announcement that the council will be live streaming the meeting to the public. And acknowledgement of country. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners and custodians of the land on which we meet today, the Tomajuna people, and to pay our respect to those that have passed before us, their history and their culture. Okay. Attendance, apologies and leave of absence is all covered. Confirmation of the minutes of our previous meeting. Any corrections to them to be identified prior to taking a vote. We have a mover and a seconder on the confirmation of the minutes of the previous meeting.
So moved, Mr. Mayor. It's Deputy Mayor Dunham.
Yep, Deputy Mayor Dunham.
I'll second it, Mayor.
Councillor Bremish. Any corrections at this stage, councillors? I'll put the motion. All in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
Carried. Declarations of interest. Any councillors with an agenda item tonight, or any staff with an agenda item tonight that they have an interest in that they'd like to mention, like to register?
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, I can't recall whether or not I declared last time that I'm now Director of the Cradle Coast Authority.
You did.
I did do that.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's on the
That's
agenda.
standard.
Yeah, so that'll stand from here on. I couldn't recall whether or not I did or not.
Yep. Okay. Thanks for checking on that, Mr. GM. Councillors announcements and report. Announcements by the Mayor.
Mayor, Robbie, can we go back one?
Yep.
I want to declare an interest in 9.5 Sisters Beach Camping.
Yep. 9.5, Councillor Fairbrother.
Yep. Thanks.
Gotcha. Okay. Nothing further, councillors. Okay. Announcements by the Mayor, 4.1. I have an announcement, a couple of announcements. First one is a statement in regard to our past councillor Ali House has resigned as councillor of the Waratah-Wynyard Council effective from the 5th of June 2020. Ali was first elected councillor in 2018 following a highly successful campaign, finishing second on first preferences. She has made a significant impact in her short time on council, with a heightened focus on transparency, communication, engagement and accountability. Projects which Ali has had strong involvement have included animal management, particularly dogs, public camping, live streaming of council meetings and council's environmental strategy. The highly successful community conversations were instigated following a motion from Councillor House. I wish to thank Ali for her contribution to council and our community. She has brought a new perspective to our council table and certainly made a positive difference in her time. The casual vacancy will be filled by a recount conducted by the Electoral Commission, which is due to be completed on June the 22nd, which is pretty close to today. That statement I'd like to follow with an announcement. And the announcement is as follows. We were advised this afternoon by the Electoral Commission that Maureen Bradley will be the new councillor on the Waratah-Wynyard Council. Congratulations to Maureen, and we wish her well and welcome her along to the team.
Mr. Mayor, it's Deputy Mayor Dunham here. I also have a statement, if I could make, please.
I'll give you that opportunity, Deputy Mayor Dunham. Before we move off this section, I'll invite any other elected members with any statements which they'd like to provide in relation to past Councillor Ali House's contribution, and I'll first invite the Deputy to be one of those. Over to you, Deputy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I support the comments from Mayor Walsh in relation to ex-Councillor House and her resignation from this council. However, I do wish at this time to also respond on behalf of the council. Firstly, this council acknowledges an ongoing commitment to training and development of all councillors and assists in the fulfilment of duties and responsibilities for all councillors. This commitment is also met through in-house mentoring, peer-to-peer support and professional development opportunities organised by local government affiliated entities such as Legat, Algar and the Municipal Association of Victoria. Support and mentoring has been provided many times to all councillors, including ex-councillor Ali House, from colleagues and staff when requested. All councillors have access to the Legat Peer Advisor Program, as well as Waratah-Wynyard Council's Employee Assistance Program. Council procedures are set down in the Local Government Act 1993, and these cannot be deviated from based on a whim. All councillors are provided with associated reports and documents, such as area plans and budgets, for clarification and discussion purposes prior to council meetings, preparatory to appropriate council debate and decisions. All councillors are provided with the same agenda documentation for review prior to council meetings within the statuted time frame. It should be noted that this council's processes and documentation are audited quarterly by an independent and professional audit review panel, which demonstrates thorough integrity and accountability. I wish to acknowledge the input by ex-councillor House throughout her time on Waratah-Wynyard Council, and I also acknowledge the commitment and input by all Waratah-Wynyard councillors in meeting community needs, often under difficult circumstances. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Duniam. Any other councillors wish to speak in relation to that matter or any other? But any questions, I'll be guiding them to the later section in the agenda where we take questions. But any further speakers? I'll give all councillors that opportunity. Okay, we'll move on to item 4.2.
Mayor Walsh.
Yes.
I've got a question about, if I can, about the nominees. Were there many nominees decided to go for former councillor House's position? Do we know from the electoral commissioner? Did he indicate?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, we were advised 4 of the 5 candidates stood. We weren't provided any detail by the electoral commission, but in reading the article on the Advocate newspaper site, it does indicate that which of those councillors, well, which of the aspiring councillors stood. So the details have been published in the newspaper, but we certainly haven't been provided those formally from the electoral commission at this point in time.
Thank you, Mr. GM.
Yeah, thank you for those comments. Mayor, could I'd like to say a few words, if I can, in response to the resignation of former councillor House.
Yep.
My experience was, Mayor, with Ali, I'd have to say as a fellow councillor, I'm pretty disappointed with her resignation, but I respect her decision. I guess I too was elected as a councillor when I was 30 and been doing the job ever since. My circumstances were perhaps a little bit different to her, but I do feel as though the role is one that can be managed. I acknowledge that there are competing issues in everyone's life. Only current councillors and new councillors, we all have competing interests that we need to manage our time. And I guess the role of councillor in my life, I can say that I prioritise my priorities and I devote as much time as I can to the council role, and I do as a councillor the best that I can. I can also say that I haven't read the 662 pages that we have in front of us tonight, but I've diligently done the best job that I can with the time that I've been allocated, and I'm sure that Ali felt self-conscious about not being able to give the time that the job deserves, and I too, I guess I've been questioning my role within the council, given the fact that she thought I can't do the job as well as what perhaps as well as what the community expected. And she came in with a fresh set of eyes, identified a number of issues or shortcomings that we have as elected members and as a council. And I think that we need to at least give her a hearing, and well, she's already aired her concerns. And what we do with that as a council, as a group, I think that we need to sit down and have a discussion about some of them. Cody Hutchison has raised a number of issues about some of her concerns in public questions and statements. He's referred some of those. So I would like to sit down with the fellow electeds, and I think it'd be good to extend an invitation to Ali, because we wasn't as fellow councillors given the courtesy to be given the heads up and know that there was issues there for her. It was for me a fresh issue that came to light when I received a copy of her, or the advice that she was resigning. Yeah, okay, she shared some of her frustrations around the council table, but I didn't know whether they were work-related, family-related, or council-related. And I guess as a fellow elected, I felt and feel partially responsible, because I think as council we promote the team aspect, and we should be there supporting each other. And I guess I felt partially guilty, given that she is a new councillor. The Deputy Mayor mentioned mentoring. I guess I've left it up to the Mayor and Deputy Mayor to ensure that some of the new councillors are have found their feet. And I know Councillor House, to me, seemed to be a competent individual who seemed to be more than competent in, if she didn't know it, she would find it out. And I will miss her contribution that she made as part of the team approach that we have at council. So I've expressed my views to her and my disappointment. I've thanked her for her contribution to the community, and expressed my disappointment that she won't be making more in a role as councillor on council. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Fairbrother. We'll now move on to the Mayor's communication, and there's a recommendation there that the council note my communications. In doing so, I'd ask for removing the seconder and any questions to those items.
Yeah, I'll
So
move.
moved, Mr.
Yep. I'll second it.
Councillor Hyland, Deputy Mayor Duniam.
Yep.
And
That's
Councillor
right.
Hyland seconded. Any questions in relation to those items there of my duties during the past month? Okay, I'll put the motion. All in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Against? Carried. We move on to item 4.4, notification of council workshops. There is a recommendation there, and the attendance record and all those things, that we note those items. Do we have a move in a second, please?
I'll move. Councillor Edwards.
Thanks, Councillor Edwards.
And seconded.
Thank you. Andrea. Councillor Courtney, sorry. Okay, any questions in relation to item 4.4? I'll put the motion. All in favour, please say aye.
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 Against? Carried. We're on a 5.1 responses to questions taken on notice. 5.2.1 resource sharing. There was a question there, and the officer's response. We go on to 5.22 questions. Now we have public questions without notice. Mr. GM, do we have any emails today?
No, we don't.
We don't. Okay, thanks for that. We move on to public statements in writing. We have a statement from Mr Hutchison in relation to Councillor House's resignations and commentary back on that. 5.5, public statements without notice. Do we have any of those today, Mr GM?
No, we don't.
Okay. Planning authority items. It's now 6:18 and we move into the planning section of our agenda. Oh, sorry, I'm a bit previous there. The public questions without notice relating to planning matters, nil. 6.2, public relating to planning matters, public statements, none. So we're now 6:19 and we move into our planning section for decisions. And item 6.3 is a boundary configuration, 5 lots into 5 lots, no additional lots at Village Lane, and there's a recommendation there would, and the conditions. Will we make a decision on this one, councillors, in regard to the recommendation?
Mayor Walsh, Councillor Fairbrother is happy to approve the application as per the conditions as outlined in the recommendation.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Fairbrother. Do we have a seconder, please?
Yeah, you've got a seconder.
Councillor Courtney. Okay. Any discussion? Any speakers? Do you wish to open the debate, Councillor Fairbrother?
I will. I'm just trying to navigate between iAnnotate and the screen where you're speaking. Mayor, I don't see that this particular application raises any concerns. Council staff and the applicant have done the bushfire, ticked all the relevant boxes, and to me it's just a few minor changes to a number of properties, albeit with the addition of an additional dwelling on one of the titles. But it's a reconfiguration of a number of titles within the rural living and rural resource zone. So there wasn't any issues jumped off the page at me, so I'm happy to move the recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Fairbrother. Any further speakers? No further.
Only more of the same, Mr Mayor. It was obviously a bit of a dog's breakfast, and I think there was actually even a block or a lot that did not even have access. So it's certainly been a good tidy up, and obviously there's plenty of good opportunities there for people that want to have a little bit of taste of rural living.
Yep.
Good job by the planning department.
Thank you, Councillor Hyland. Any speakers against the motion? In that case, I'll put the motion. All in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you. We move on to
Just close the planning authority.
oh, sorry. Yeah, that completes the planning section at 6:22. 6:22, folks. Matters raised by councillors. 7.1, response to councillors' questions taken on notice from the previous meeting. 7.11, rubbish bin at Boat Harbour. Response there, Councillor Bramish. 7.2, councillors' questions received in writing, nil, and without notice. Do we have any councillors' questions without notice tonight?
It's Deputy Mayor Dunningham here. Mr Mayor, could I ask a question without notice, please?
Yes, go for it.
Okay, my question is, when will the dog beach restrictions and installation of relevant new signage within the Waratah-Wynyard municipal area be finalised as per the decision made at the December 2019 meeting of the Waratah-Wynyard Council? This is based on issues that have been raised by a resident around Doctors Rocks and the situation of bad dog ownership, if you like. And it's not about compliance, but certainly making sure that we tighten it up so that anyone who uses those beaches are informed, they know what they can do, when they can do it, and we need to have a little more control over it. So I'm asking, when will these restrictions and the installation of the relevant signage be instituted? Thank you.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor Duniam. Mr GM, can you answer that now, or do you need to get the details?
Mr Summers will.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Mr Summers, Daniel, would you have an answer to that question from the deputy, please?
Yeah, sure. Through you, Mr. Mayor. Look, the signage order certainly is stalled. I've in fact got a meeting with relevant staff members tomorrow to keep that moving along, so we can in fact clearly delineate those areas. I guess another matter coming up that may assist in reinforcing a good dog ownership is the renewal registration period, where the pamphlet on good dog ownership will be distributed also.
Thank you. That suffice your answer. An answer for you, Councillor Deputy Mayor Duniam?
Yes, thank you very much.
Any further councillors' questions without notice?
I have a couple of questions, if I could, please.
Councillor Edwards? Yep.
I'm just wondering, do we have a start date for the CCTV cameras that are going in our CBD area yet?
Through you, Mr Mayor, a number of the cameras are in and operational. There's certainly some more to go. Obviously, once the cameras are in and working, we have a number of steps we need to take around documentation. We have some signage which needs to go out to the community to let them know that the cameras are in operation, and we'll obviously do some media around that, Councillor Edwards. We were hoping into the financial year. It won't be far away. They're getting close. There's been a couple of delays, I know, with some pole installation, I believe, but it shouldn't be too far away from being completed and operational, is my understanding.
Thank you, Mr GM.
Thank you.
Suffice your answers, Councillor Edwards?
Yes, thank you. I did see a couple of polls around, so I didn't know if they were it or not.
Yep.
I have another couple of questions.
Yeah, go for it.
Could council make contact with the Wynyard Police Sergeant or Minister for Police on the increased hooning around our town? Also, could we invite Ruth Forrest to a workshop brainstorm on the current issues of hooning and dumping of rubbish in our area, please?
Through you, Mr Mayor, we can address both of those issues as requested.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr GM. Any further councillors' questions without notice?
Yeah, I've got one, Mr Mayor.
Yeah, Councillor Highland.
Our new boundary signage, is that complete at this stage, or have we still got some work to do?
Mr Summers?
Through Mr Mayor, do you mean the municipal entry signs, Councillor Highland?
Yes, and we've got one about a kilometre this side of the Hellier River on the Murchison Highway. Is that included?
Yes.
It's not included in that, or is?
No, so we have the town entry markers, or the town entry signs, if you like, have been installed.
Yeah.
And then there is signage to be installed, which is the welcome to the municipality.
Yep.
Yeah, so that
still...
signage is at the depot. Unfortunately, it's got one little error in it that needs amending before we can place them up. But the signage is available. So yeah, the municipal signage, entry signage, is yet to go up. The town entry markers have been completed.
Oh, that's all right. Just the one on the Murchison Highway has had it's been bashed, and it's just a sad, sorry sight on the side of the road. That's all.
Yeah, so that would be replaced as part of the program.
Yep, no worries.
Any further councillors' questions without notice?
Yes, Mr Mayor, if I can.
Yes, Councillor Bramish.
It's just to follow up on the cameras. Has the police had an input in where they go, or how did we decide where they go?
Yeah, through you, Mr Mayor. We have been discussing with the police, Councillor Bramage, the location. They're aware of the location. They'll have access to the footage, so they'll be able to see where the cameras are pointing and can extract data as required. They're not monitored cameras, but they're recording. So the police are certainly aware of where the cameras are located and in which direction they're aiming.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillors, any further questions without notice?
Mayor Walsh, Councillor Fairbrother's got a couple of questions.
Yep. Go for it.
Directed to staff, with the current appeals or most recent appeals, are there any updates as to the progress of such? In particular, the appeal that was lodged at Yolla for the development application up that way, or have all appeals been placed on hold due to the coronavirus?
Might ask Daniel if he'd like to comment.
Yeah, Mr. Summers, would you wish to comment on that question?
Sure. Yeah, the one at Yolla, the address to Mount Hicks Road, that was, as I understand, actually withdrawn by the appellant. And the other current one in relation to the multi-purpose building is currently being mediated.
That answer your question, Councillor Fairbrother?
It does, thank you. What about the Wilkins Street Magistrates Court issue? Where do we have a status update as to where that one's at?
Through Mr. Mayor, we're waiting on a revised date through the court system for that one, Councillor Fairbrother. The preliminary hearing was held, and we're yet to be advised of the date of the next hearing.
Oh, so that was the hearing. It come up for mention, did it? And then after mention, you go to the hearing. Is that how it operates?
I'm not sure the technicality. I think this was called a preliminary hearing and certainly all the appellants were asked to attend and spoke, is my understanding. And council representatives presented a position. And I believe a similar process occurs the next time around, but in more detail.
Thank you.
Any further councillors' questions without notice? Okay, we'll move on to section 8 on the agenda. 8.1, notices of motion. Notice of motions and 8.1. Did I miss someone?
Sorry. Sorry, Nick.
Yep.
I have your speaker off, and I did have another question. I have your speaker off, and I'm talking to myself here.
Oh, fair enough. We'll listen to you now.
Just, I guess it's directed to state growth regarding the condition of the highway from the Mount Hicks roundabout to Doctors Rocks. Is the Director of Engineering got any updates from them of when that might be fixed? Because it's a disgusting piece of road.
Yeah, Mr. Summers, do you have any comment in regarding to that question?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, no, I don't have dates, but certainly aware of the poor condition. I can follow that up and give some advice as soon as they give it to us. So.
Thank you.
Yeah, that'd be good. We could follow up. And even the condition of the roundabout is getting bad as well at Mount Hicks.
Correct.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, any further questions from councillors without notice? Okay, we'll move on to section 8 on the agenda, and 8.1. Councillor Edwards has a notice of motion there. And would you like to formally move that, Councillor Edwards?
Yes, I would like to move the motion as it is written, please.
Okay, and we have a seconder for that motion, so Councillor Edwards can speak on that, please.
Yeah, Councillor Fairbrother seconds the motion.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Edwards, you wish to speak?
Yep, thank you. My motion is for council to give priority to working with the Sisters Beach Community Association and to source funding for the installation of virtual fence devices on the Sisters Beach Road between Banksia Park and Lake Llewellyn, and to ensure this is in place prior to summer 2020. And also, point 2, for council to consider funding the project should external funding not be achieved with a report detailing costs to be provided no later than September 2020. Virtual fencing devices are activated by approaching vehicle headlights between dawn and dusk and give off light and sound that alert and repel the animals. In our current strategic plan, the following action states to investigate and implement virtual fencing in areas of high sensitivity, and in that I am bringing forth the Sisters Beach area. In our ISEP draft plan, there is to investigate options for reducing the amount of wildlife killed on the Waratah-Wynyard Road. Yeah, so that's about it.
Thank you, Councillor Edwards. Any further speakers?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Yes, I sort of agree with fully with the intent of the motion. But we're now middle of the year, we're in June, and point 2, consider funding the project ourselves if we aren't successful with funding, is sort of putting us right on the line to, and obviously in that shorter space to try and secure funding. And if you read the comments down further where council has tried already to secure funding and weren't successful, sort of puts the onus straight on council. If we approve that motion with dot point 2, that we don't have an option but to source it. I don't know what other councillors' views are on that.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, I just might clarify that for Councillor Hyland. The way I read the motion as it stands is that if this motion is accepted tonight, that council officers will, between now and essentially September, go and try and find applicable funding for the project. If that doesn't occur, then a report would go to the September council meeting for council to determine the contribution they'll make towards funding the project. So it essentially gives officers 3 months or so to go away and seek some funding, and then a commitment to bring a report to September. And again, my interpretation of the motion, and Councillor Edwards can correct, was the intent was to try and make sure that the devices are in place prior to summer.
Thank you, Mr. GM.
Yeah, I suppose the only concern I had, there's some expectations there. I think that this should happen prior to Christmas this year. But anyway.
Yeah.
No worries, thanks.
Thank you. Any further speak?
Yeah, Mayor Walsh, Councillor Fairbrother will speak to the motion. I couldn't quite ascertain whether Councillor Hyland was for or against. He seemed to be sitting on the fence somewhat. If it was up to the community, yes, the project wouldn't even need to come to council. There's already, as I understand it, an application being lodged for funding, which was unsuccessful. I guess they're trying to leave no stone unturned in finding different sources of revenue to be able to provide this particular facility for the animals down that way. So I think that it's good that Councillor Edwards has brought the notice of motion forward, because I think that we need to have a can-do attitude in trying to assist the community where the community is showing initiative to improve their lot. And in this instance, I think that we need to lend a hand, even though Councillor Hyland doesn't appear as though he is enthusiastic about it. As General Manager has pointed out, Council will have, if external funding's not forthcoming before September, to reassess the situation and review where we are at and where the community are at in relation to this particular project. So I think we need to endorse the notice of motion. Thank you.
Okay, I guess if Fairbrother, any further speakers? I guess you didn't really speak against the motion, Councillor Hyland, so I guess there's no.
Yeah, you're right on the money. Yes,
yeah, so I guess there's no need for you to close the debate, Councillor Edwards, with no one opposing the motion. So I'll put the motion. All in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Yeah, aye.
Against? Carried unanimously. Okay, 8.2, Councillor Fairbrother, you have a notice there of motion for the Crown land and that the council consider that where areas of Crown land separate the road and the property boundary for the purpose of planning, that the area be incorporated and or considered as a part of the road reserve. That is your motion. Sorry, would you wish to formally move that motion and we'll get a seconder?
Yes, I wish to formally move that motion. Thank you, Mayor.
Could we have a seconder?
And I'll second
I'll
that one. That's no problem.
Mayor.
Yeah.
I can't think that was Andrew or
Andrew.
Yeah, Councillor Courtney.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, okay. We have a move and a seconder. Would you like to propose your motion, Councillor Fairbrother?
Speaking in support of the motion, Mayor, I have provided councillors with a copy of the correspondence from the planner to the applicant in this instance. The planner has actually stated or suggested this as a matter for council consideration. The applicant in this instance has provided me with a copy of the correspondence, which I've provided to all other councillors, suggesting that this particular outcome as outlined in the motion can happen. I was somewhat surprised to reading through the officer's comment that they seem to be balking at the idea, suggesting that whilst there are some properties or some Crown land between Wynyard and Doctors Rocks, I don't know that it actually, the officer's report doesn't actually state that there is a section of owned Crown land in front of the property subject to the application. Whilst I apologise to councillors for not providing that information, the list does indicate that the Crown, as a public authority, owns some land out between Wynyard and Doctors Rocks, but it's on the other side of the railway line, and the planner doesn't actually state that the land that they own is between the houses and the railway line. It may well be Crown land, but I still question whether it actually has a title, because the list certainly didn't indicate that the land has a title. To me, it seems to be one that's fairly straightforward, and I'm surprised that the motion has been put forward. I would have thought that it'd be dealt with as an operational type issue rather than coming to council for council consideration. But I commend the motion to you as it's one that should be fairly straightforward to me. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Fairbrother. Any further speakers? No further speakers? No speakers against? No need for a closing the debate. I'll put the motion. All in favour, please say aye.
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 Against? Carried unanimously. 9.1. That concludes notices of motion. 9.1, rates and charges policy. We have a recommendation there, councillors, 1 and 2.
I move, Mr Mayor. It's Deputy Mayor Nuttingham here.
Yep, moved
Yeah, and seconded.
by Councillor Courtney. Do you wish to speak, Councillor Deputy Mayor?
No, I don't think so, Mr Mayor. It's pretty thorough.
Okay.
Yep.
I'll invite anyone else that wishes to speak. I'll put the motion. Oh,
Mayor,
sorry.
Councillor Fairbrother over to Bobsworth. Just need to turn the item up. Yeah, no, Mr Mayor, I don't wish to make a comment, sorry. We're on item 9.1.
That's correct.
Yes, no, don't wish to make a comment, thank you.
Okay, I'll put the motion. All in favour, please say aye.
Right.
Aye.
Against? Carried unanimously. Okay, we move over to item 9.2. annual plan and budget estimates. And before we move into that, I'd ask our Director of Organisational Performance, Mr. Sam Searle, to speak in relation to advice on the fees and charges that got notification of today.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just before we consider this item, I'd just like to make councillors aware that the document contains council's proposed fees and charges for next financial year. They're included on page 65 of the document. Council today received some advice from the state government in relation to the fees that are set by the state government. So there are 5 prescribed fees on page 65. They've today announced that the fee unit will remain the same, and therefore there will be a change to page 65 following the adoption of the budget by council. So just wanted to make council aware of that. I don't think there's a need to amend the motion that's before council, but just wanted to make council aware of that small change that we'll make.
Thank you, Mrs. Searle. Any questions relating to that information passed on by the Director, councillors? Quite clear? Okay, I'll ask for a mover and a seconder on item 9.2, the annual plan and budget estimates for 2020-21.
I move, Mr. Mayor. It's Deputy Mayor Duniam here.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
I'll second it, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Hyland. Any speakers? Given we've workshopped this.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, if I could just make a comment.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'll be speaking in favour of it, but it's been, we have as a council worked through all the parts of this particular document very thoroughly, and I need to emphasise that we won't just be rubber stamping it. We have been through absolutely everything, every detail, and Mrs. Searle has provided us with the absolute clear and concise information. So I think that this plan is a good way forward, and I think that we should be very proud of this particular document because it does show that we are working for our community.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Duniam. Any further speakers?
Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah, Councillor Bramish.
That's it. Yeah, look, I endorse Councillor Duniam's comments. I can assure whoever is interested, we have spent hours and hours and hours over many months on this, and it's certainly not rubber stamped. But I think this is a good outcome considering the situation we're in. There's going to be a lot of money spent in our municipality to try and get things back as good as we can get them again. And I encourage all councillors to support this, and I know they will because we've workshopped it that many times. And I think if the community have a good look at it, they should be and understand it all. They'll be quite happy too. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bramish. Any further speakers?
Yeah, Mayor Walsh, I've got a question if I can, or a couple.
Question, Councillor Fairbrother, go for it.
The final capital works program, is that listed somewhere? On my read through, I couldn't seem to find what the finalised list of capital works projects ended up being as part of the council discussions. Can council staff identify somewhere within the document that the capital works program, finalised capital works program for the future 2020-2021 financial year?
I can respond to that, Mr. Mayor, if you like.
Okay.
The document that's before council tonight contains an overview of the capital works program on page 46, and also a summarised estimated capital expenditure statement on page 64 in Appendix B. So there isn't a detailed list of individual items included in this public document, but I can provide councillors with that, with the final detailed budget out of session, if you would like.
Thank you, Mrs. Searle.
Yeah, thank you. That would be appreciated.
Can you add another question, Councillor Fairbrother?
That'll keep me going for a while, thank you.
Okay, any further speakers? Okay, I'll, everyone seems quite comfortable. I will put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
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 Against? Carried unanimously. Item 9.3, the council update on COVID-19. Recommendation that the council note the action being taken in relation to the pandemic, and we have some facts and figures there that for information. So, would someone like to move note this information?
So moved, Mr Mayor. It's Deputy Mayor Dunningham here.
Thank you. Second,
Councillor
Councillor Edwards. Okay. Any speakers or any questions? Deputy Mayor Dunningham, do you wish to speak as a move of the motion?
Simply a comment that this is quite an extensive document with good details, and it demonstrates that we are abiding by the sanctions set down and behaving as we should as a council, supporting our communities and keeping everyone safe. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Question, Councillor Edwards.
Yeah. The soap dispensers, have they started being installed or not quite yet? Or how far through are we with those?
Whose department would that be, Mr.
That's
GM?
Through Mr Mayor, I'm not sure of the answer. Mr Summers may, otherwise we'll need to take that on notice.
Yep. And I have another question. Do we know when we may be able to start council meetings all in one room and public? But as noted, we're still in a state of emergency till the 9th of July.
Yeah, through Mr Mayor, our full intent is to return to face-to-face meetings in July, so the next council meeting. At the moment, we would have, if the restrictions remain the same, we would have limitations as to how many people can be in our council chambers, abiding by the 4 square metre rule. So we would have very limited access. There's decisions to be made around public access to that meeting, but certainly from a councillor perspective, we would have face-to-face meetings from July.
Great, thank you.
And if Mr Summers is online there now, Mr Mayor.
Yeah, through you, Mr Mayor, I'll have to take that one on notice.
Yep.
Thank you. Any further questions, councillors? Any further speakers? I'll put the motion. All in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against?
Aye.
Carried. 9.4, Open Space Sport and Recreation Plan, Somerset Master Plan, review of Somerset Soccer Grounds. We have a recommendation there, councillors.
So moved, Mr Mayor. It's Deputy Mayor Dunningham here.
Thank you, Deputy
Yeah,
Mayor.
I'll second this one. Yep.
Councillor Courtney.
Yes, Mr Mayor.
Okay, any further speak? Do you wish to speak, Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. Obviously, this is in Somerset, close to my heart. The vision for our integrated sports complex just couldn't be realised, and therefore we have had to come up with a separate plan. It will be in 4 stages, and there are a lot of details provided on page 69. I think it is the only way to go, and I think that because the soccer ground is used all year round, it will be good value for money for our community and also for our council. So I commend this motion to the whole council. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further speakers?
Yeah, Mr Mayor, it's obviously not the UBU plan that we set out to achieve, but and I'm hoping perhaps that with the soccer ground, I suppose all facilities, that we can make these things happen as soon as possible and as soon as funds are available, I suppose. That is sort of directed. Happy with it. Yep.
Okay, any further speakers, councillors?
Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Bramish.
Councillor Bramish. Yeah, look, I won't have too much to say. This is another item that has been workshopped. We've had on-site inspections, and it's been discussed now over a number of years. Yes, we didn't get our way with the full plan, but this is another item that's not going to be rubber stamped. We've put a lot of time and effort into this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bramish. Any further speakers? I'll put the motion. All in favour, please say aye.
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 Against? Carried unanimously. Item 9.5, Sisters Beach Public Camping. There's a recommendation there, councillors.
So moved, Mr Mayor. Deputy Mayor Duniam.
Thank you.
Seconded, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Hyland, seconded. Do you wish to speak, Deputy Mayor?
Oh no, only just to reinforce what we're doing. We are noting the feedback, and as the report actually said, that there were some for this particular proposal and some against. But I like it that we are commencing an expression of interest process for an interested party to manage the site, and I think that's the way it should be handled. So I do commend this particular motion again to the council. Thanks.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Any further speakers?
Yeah, just to back the Deputy Mayor's comments, and I'll be looking forward to the expressions of interest, Mr Mayor.
Yep. Any further speakers? I'll put the motion. All in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against?
Aye.
Against, carried unanimously. Okay. Nine 9.6 is the Public Art Advisory Committee, and the motion is that council endorse the community members of the Public Art Advisory Committee, and the second part to that is nominate a councillor to be part of the Waratah-Wynyard Public Art Advisory Group in accordance with the Public Art Advisory Group operating procedures. So whilst we do it in whole, or do we want to do it in a two-part? Do it two parts. A two-part, okay. Would someone like to move a motion to endorse those members for the committee?
Could I move a motion, please, Mr Mayor? Deputy Mayor Duniam here.
Yes, done. Could we have a seconder, please?
Yeah, I'll second it.
Councillor Fairbrother. Okay. Any speakers in relation to those 7 nominations? I'll put the motion. All in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against?
Aye.
Carried unanimously. Aye. Section 2, Part 2. Could I have a nomination of a councillor? Any
I
more?
would like to put my hand up. Councillor Edwards.
Councillor Edwards nominated herself, and that's not a problem. Any further nominations? If
No,
not,
I support Salisa's nomination.
okay, could we have a mover for that nomination? If there is no further nominations coming forward, I'd ask for a mover and a seconder for councillor voluntary nomination.
So move, Mr Mayor.
I'll-
Deputy Mayor Duniam here.
Yeah, and I'll second Councillor Edwards being nominated.
Okay, I got it. Councillor Duniam moved and Councillor Courtney seconded. Any discussion? I'll put the motion. All in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Declare Councillor Edwards the Waratah-Wynyard on that committee. Well done, Salise. Thanks for making yourself available.
Thank you.
9.8, communication and...
Missed one.
Missed one, did I, Mr. Reid? I did too. I knew I was going to do that tonight. I come with that thought in my mind. Visiting our region, Tasmania's Far Northwest Report. Recommendation that the council note the re-imaging the region report and endorse the development of a business case for the Loo with a View report concept.
So move, Mr Mayor. Deputy Mayor Duniam.
Seconded, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Hyland, Deputy Mayor Duniam, Councillor Hyland. Any speakers?
Yes, Mr Mayor, just that reimagining the region, is support. But the second part, it's really important for our council area to endorse this particular project. I think it's exciting. I'm not sure who will be first to use that particular loo with a view, but certainly I do think that to establish the business case and get things rolling is a fantastic way to start the whole project off. So thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Any further speakers?
Yeah, I'll speak for it. I think we need to think outside the box to bring people to our region and municipal area in this time. So, yeah, fully support it.
Thank you, Councillor Edwards. Any further speakers?
Can I just ask, have we got any other projects that, you know, can be done in the same area? Or are we just going to go, because we've already voted down the loo with a view, we're bringing it back to the table. I'd like to know, if we endorse the development of a business case, what's that going to cost us? Is that an in-house thing, or is that going to cost the ratepayers to get that done? And do we have another project other than just this loo with a view?
I need to pass that one on to the manager of tourism and marketing, Mrs. Bradley. Were you online, Mrs. Bradley?
Yes, I am. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for that question, Councillor Courtney. The work that will be done on the business plan will be done in-house. There will be a small cost, but that will be the operating budget. So it won't be an additional cost. And there are a number of other projects, but in terms of this is specifically for up at Table Cape. So there's other tourism projects that are in other places, such as Waratah. So this one is specifically around Table Cape.
Thank you, Mrs. Bradley.
Sorry, through you, Mr. Mayor. No, I realise that that's where this specific one is. I probably didn't word that very well. So what I meant was, do we have any other ideas other than the loo with a view for that area? Do we have any other projects that we can put forward for that same area? Because as I say, this didn't get up in the first instance, and I'm very well aware of the fact that there was an ongoing asset maintenance cost. So unless the business plan can show me that there's not that ongoing cost to ratepayers, I still have concerns about this. So I just wondered whether there was anything else we could put up there that didn't have a massive asset management cost ongoing. That was all.
Yeah, just through you, Mr. Mayor. So the business case will provide us that, so tell us around what we think the economic stimulus will be from having a project like Loo with a View, and does that offset what it will cost in terms of the maintenance of the Loo with a View project. So the business case will tell us that and give you some, I guess, some comfort in is it worth the money? Is it worth the investment? So this is a very, the project is really about the development of a business case, and get an opportunity to see what the economic benefit is to the area based on that business case.
Thank you.
So, through you, Mr. Mayor, there certainly aren't any alternate options at this point in time, Councillor Courtney. It is the working up of this business case, and there are no other options that have been prepared or are being prepared for that site at the minute.
Thank you, Mr. GM.
Okay, any further speakers or questions? I'll put the motion.
Mayor,
Councillor Yep.
Yeah, I still have some reservations about the regurgitation of the Loo with a View concept. I perhaps can't move on from the inordinate cost of a toilet facility for the public, whether it be ratepayer funds, taxpayer funds, whoever funds it. There seems to be some disproportionate cost associated with this particular project that outweighs, to me, the benefits. Yes, the business case will find them out to find some balance. However, I can't move past, if we give in principle support for the business case, we then committing ourselves to proceed with the particular project. I recognise there's $7,500 identified for the business case. Is the particular project so perceived to be so beneficial for the community that we're prepared to spend not only the $7,500 but the other additional ratepayer funds? Maybe I am too conservative and not prepared to look outside the square on this instance and spend what I consider to be the hard-earned value of the ratepayers for such a project when a chemical toilet situated at Table Cape could do the same job.
Councillor Fairbrother, any further speakers?
I've got a question, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Highland?
Like you might be sitting on the fence.
I missed that.
Councillor Fairbrother sounds a bit like you might be sitting on the fence. But anyway, the question is, to you, Mr GM, could you just give us a little bit of a breakdown on that, the cost that I think they're calling a massive cost of the cleaning and whatever else, and there was another part to that, but from my recollection, it was around $50,000 or $60,000 annually, and that was only a guesstimate, I think, for cleaning and
Yeah, through you, Mr Mayor. I don't have those figures in front of me, Councillor Highland. Mrs Bradley may well have them and she can jump in a second. But and I don't think it was as high as what you quote there, Councillor Highland. But the business case, I guess, when we were talking before, it was certainly a concept. So we were looking at concepts and preliminary figures. The intent of the business case would be to work up the exact figures and to be 100% sure what they would be with more certainty. Mrs Bradley, do you have the figures in front of you?
Through you, Mr Mayor, I'm sorry, Mr General Manager, I don't have the figures with me.
Yep.
My recollection is that it was under $30,000.
Yeah.
It wasn't as high as,
that's right. Yep.
Just said. I guess just to comment that the Loo with a View, if you think of it, it is under the Reimagining Our Regions report. They see it as an iconic tourism asset, not just a public toilet. So we're not building a public toilet for the sake of a public toilet. It is something that has been demonstrated to attract a whole range of people to the area. And rather than just having a public toilet, this will be an iconic tourism attraction that will bring people to the area. That's what the business case will prove one way or the other, and give you that information to be able to make a decision on in terms of whether to progress once the business case is developed.
Thank you, Mrs Bradley. Any further speakers? Any further questions? I'll put the motion. All in favour, please say aye.
Sorry, Mr Mayor, sorry.
That was Councillor Courtney.
Yes. I'm happy to note the Reimaging the Region report. I don't feel comfortable with including an endorsement of the business case, though.
Okay. Well, in that, the result of... I'm sorry, someone's on... Yeah, the result of this motion will give you the result of... Yeah, I understand what you mean, Councillor Courtney. Yep, and the result of this motion that we have on the books will give you may or may not give you the opportunity to go that way.
You can split into two should you wish, Mr Mayor.
Yeah. Yeah, but at the moment we have a motion regarding that. If that, I'd say we shouldn't need to put that motion, and if failing that going through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep, that makes sense.
And if we, yeah, or Is it the desire of one only to do that? Yeah.
I will note too, Mr Mayor, that it says re-imaging in the recommendation. That should obviously be reimagining. It's correct in the title, not correct in the motion that stands before council. So we will correct that typo.
Yeah, I understand your concern there, Councillor Courtney. With my explanation, how do you feel?
I feel like I'm going to have to vote against because I don't feel comfortable with us being iconic for a toilet.
Yep.
And spending money up front when we've already knocked the idea on the head, and that we haven't come up with anything else other than this, even though it was already knocked on the head. So I feel like there's a lot of time and effort being put into this. And my recollection was that it was going to be about 50,000. So, and obviously I'm not recalling the figure the same as Kevin, Councillor Hyland. So I'll leave that where it is. But I'm going to have to be against, because I'm not comfortable with endorsing a business plan to be iconic for a dunny.
Yeah.
I'll leave that there.
Okay, I'll put the motion and there'll be a division. Those for the motion, please indicate.
Aye. Deputy Mayor Dunham.
Edwards, yeah, and Ireland.
Ireland.
Yep. Those against?
Aye.
That was, please,
Councillor,
Fairbrother, was it?
yes, and Councillor Courtney.
Councillor Bramage.
Okay, 3 against and 4 for. The motion's carried.
So just, if I may clarify, Mr Mayor, the votes there, can we just work through those, please?
Yeah, Councillor Dunham, Councillor Edwards, Councillor Hyland and myself were for. Those against were Councillor Courtney, Councillor Fairbrother and Councillor Bramage.
Yeah, thank you.
All clear. Thank you. Item 9.8, Communication and Engagement Strategy, Year 1 Review. We have a move and a seconder for that, please.
I move, Mr Mayor. Deputy Mayor Dunham.
Yes, thank you, Deputy. A seconder, please.
Second, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Hyland. Okay, any speakers?
Yes, Mr Mayor. Can I just make a comment as Deputy Mayor Dunham?
Yes, go for it.
Thank you. It's an excellent initiative as proposed by ex-councillor Ali House. It demonstrates actual community participation with good responses, and it indicates how successful this initiative has been. So therefore it's a must that it should continue.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Any further speakers? I'll put the motion. All in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against?
Aye.
Carried. 9.9, Waste Survey Detailed Results Report. The 2020 Waste Survey Detailed Results Report.
I move, Mr Mayor. Deputy Mayor Dunham.
Thank you.
Mr Mayor.
Councillor Hyland. Any speakers? Do you wish to speak, Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Any other people wish to speak? Any other councillors wish to speak?
Yes, Mayor, I'll make some comment. Whilst I won't be speaking against the motion, I was, when reading through this, the drip feed that we seem to be getting in relation to waste management at the moment, I'm anticipating another report will be coming soon to council to ascertain whether we support or don't support the FOGO initiative. It does seem to be leading up to that particular decision. Would be nice, I guess, instead of the drip feed approach, as to and no doubt it will happen eventually, is that all of these reports that we seem to be adopting in relation to the waste management strategy and FOGO will be brought to a head somewhere some time down the track, and I guess this is just another step on the ladder moving in the direction of adopting FOGO.
That conclude your comment, Councillor Fairbrother?
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further speakers? I'll put the motion. All in favour, please say aye.
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 Against? Carried unanimously. Okay, we move on to 9.10, the Cradle Coast Waste Management Group Annual Plan and Budget.
So I move, Mr Mayor. It's Deputy Mayor Duniam.
Have a seconder for this motion, please.
Yeah, I'll second the motion.
Councillor Fairbrother seconded. Any speakers?
Yeah, Mayor, I'll speak in support of the motion if the mover's not. The report provided associated with this particular document does indicate a number of initiatives in the waste area which this council, I believe, participates and takes opportunity in participating in. There is, if councillors haven't read the document, a number of waste streams which can be accessed if there is businesses out there or individuals out there with a number of waste streams that they go to the trouble of recycling. They can, through the Cradle Coast Waste Management System and this council, offload some of the various waste streams. That's identified within the report which accompanies this particular document. I don't know that there'd be too many ratepayers out there that would be aware of some of the waste streams that recyclables could be disposed of. I think it's something that we as a council perhaps should highlight for our ratepayers. Some of those waste stream and recycling initiatives through the Cradle Coast Authority that is articulated in their associated report to this particular agenda item. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fairbrother. Any further speakers? I'll put the motion. All in favour, please say aye.
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 Against? Carried unanimously. 9.11, Legat special meeting on the 26th of June. There's an explanation there of what we're about, and note the advice related to the conduct of the Local Government Association of Tasmania's annual general meeting and July general meeting remotely, and that we agree to the West Tamar delegate attending the special general meeting and acting as council's proxy to vote on the motions listed in the agenda, and note agreement to the proposed rule change.
So I move, Mr Mayor. It's Deputy Mayor Duniam.
Seconded, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Hyland, Deputy Mayor Duniam's moved and Councillor Hyland seconded. Any discussion? Any questions?
My only comment is, Mr Mayor, that it is the proper way to go. There's got to be an annual general meeting. If this is the only way to have it, then I guess that we all need to agree on the way it's held, which will be remotely, and that each council should have opportunity for representation.
Thank you.
Through you, Mr Mayor, the fire alarm is going here at the council chambers. If anyone's getting some background noise, we're just investigating.
We will just need
Put
to
your hat
check.
on.
We may have to leave the building in a hurry. And we were on item number 9.12, which was the award of the contract for bridge assessment management services, which we had a mover and a seconder for. Mover, Councillor Brummy, seconded Councillor Fairbrother. Any speakers or any questions regarding this these services?
Oh, Mayor, have I got my speaker on?
Yep.
Yeah, look, this is something we've got to do. Been about for a fair few years now, so I guess we've got to get our bridges inspected. So that's about all I've got to say about it.
Yep, good. Okay, thanks, Councillor Bramish. Any further speakers? No. I'll put the motion. All in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried.
Mr. Mayor, can I
Yeah.
go back to the LGAT one?
Yeah, oh, that's right. You asked a question which I
asked the question. Can you,
Mr.
see if
Chair, I passed it on to him when we're waiting outside in the emergency management, in the emergency assembly area. You go for it, Councillor Bramish. You asked the GM in person.
I just wondered, Mr. GM, have we got the opportunity as a council to ask questions or make comments at these meetings regarding something outside the agenda?
The LGAT meetings you refer to, Councillor Bramish?
Yeah.
Yeah, so normally we have the opportunity to raise motions or put forward motions for any of the meetings that are held quarterly, so we can do that. Any questions we've got outside of that, we can ask at any time. So if there's anything you'd like us to put forward, we can do so in the bid to get a response.
Right. Well, as I don't know what other councillors feel on this, is regarding training for councillors in how they train, and whether that's pointed out to them that it's not all going to go their way in the meeting room. It's going to get fairly heated. It's very similar to what Steve Cons commented on his letter, that it's all right to do training and then sit down and have a cup of tea and scones. Well, that's not really how it works in the real world. I guess that's what I'm trying to, you would probably understand what I mean.
Yeah.
And probably be able to put something in better words than that. But I guess you get where I'm coming from.
Perhaps what I can do, Councillor Bramish, is get a detailed list of the agenda of the training that occurs from LGAT, and we can review that and see if there's any opportunity to provide comment. Because there certainly are training courses that are available for new candidates, and I guess what you're saying there is that you'd like particular aspects of the role clarified.
Yeah, like to let the new candidates know that it's not all beer, not going to be as easy as you think, We're going to have some heated discussions around the table from time to time, and it's not always going to go people's way.
Yeah, understand the point, Councillor Bramish.
Thank you. Thanks, Mayor.
No worries. Okay, we're on item 9.13 and award of the contract for the Old Bass Highway Port Creek Bridge replacement. And there's a recommendation there, councillors. I'd like to move in a second, and if you have any questions to the Manager Engineering Services.
I'm happy to move that, Mayor.
Councillor Bramish moved.
I'm happy to second that.
Councillor Courtney seconded. Okay, Councillor Bramish, you have a wish to speak?
Yeah, I guess we've had an on-site inspection on this, and we've seen the problems that's occurring, and the other pleasing thing is it's come in fairly well under budget. I don't know whether the Director of Engineering wants to make any comment, but that's really good.
Okay, any further speakers? Mr. Manager of Engineering Services, do you wish to comment on relation to the allocation of this tender?
Yeah, thanks for you, Mr. Mayor. As Councillor Bramish had put, it is quite a good result we've got from the market there, and I guess as you'll see, the number of tenderers for these contracts has steadily increased the longer we've been involved in Tenderlink for electronic tendering. So the end result is we're getting more competitive prices, which is a good result.
Really is. Thank you, Mr. Manager. Any further speakers? I'll put the motion. All in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against?
Aye.
Carried. 9.14, the award of a contract for the bitumen surfacing. Recommendation there, councillors.
Yeah, so moved, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Highland,
Yeah, second it, Mayor.
Councillor Bremish. You wish to speak, Councillor Highland?
No, Mr Mayor, happy with the result.
Anyone wish to speak or have any questions?
I'll make a comment if I may, Mayor. I guess this is where it comes into resource sharing, and I hope hopefully it benefits both councils. Thank you.
Okay, I'll put the motion. All in favour, please say aye.
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 Against? Carried. Item 9.15, the financial report for the period ended the 31st of May 2020. A recommendation that we,
Don't move, Mr Mayor, Deputy Mayor Dunham.
thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Second, Mr Mayor.
Second, Councillor Highland. Any questions? Any speakers?
No, nothing substantial apart from the fact that Mrs Searle has provided us with a very comprehensive financial report, easy to follow, and we should be very clear about where we're heading financially with such reports that she is presenting.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Any further speakers?
Yes, Mayor, if I may.
Councillor Bremish.
On page 134, on the bottom there, it's where we removed the old swimming pool, and it talks about a mural on the pool shed. Is any idea when that might happen? It'll be after winter now, I guess, won't it?
Yeah, our tourism, our manager, Mrs Bradley, could you handle that one, please?
Thank you. Through you, Mr Mayor. So we have been stalled a little bit on this project due to COVID and getting some information in. So we are onto it and hope to commence before the end of the financial year.
Really?
Right. Do you want a follow-up question, if I may, Mayor?
Yeah, go for it, Mr Bremish.
Will school kids be involved in that sort of thing, or is it going out to professional?
The project's going to go out to a professional. The boards we're going to take part, they will involve young people in coming up with designs. So there's sort of two mural projects that'll be going on around the same time.
Yeah. Can I have another question, Mr Mayor, if I may?
Yes.
Sorry to be a pain.
No, you're not a pain.
With the professional mural on there, how long is that shed going to stay there before we're going to have to build a new one? I guess I get why I'm asking that question. I wouldn't like to see even money spent on a mural, and then next year or the year after build a new shed.
Through you, Mr Mayor. So the mural will have information incorporated into it about the foreshore market. So murals usually have a life limit, and so we certainly wouldn't be doing such work that it's not going to survive the life of the shed. So if we do have to remove the shed, I don't think there's any proposal to do that at the moment. But it certainly wouldn't be a big expense to then put something new on a new shed.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions relating the financial report for the period ended 31st of May? Or any questions? Okay, I'll put the motion. All in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. 9.16, the senior management report. There's a recommendation that we note it and agree to rescind policy FIN 001, approval of new expenditure. Okay, we have a recommendation there, councillors.
So moved, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Highland,
I'll second that, Mr Mayor.
Deputy
Mary-
Mayor Duniam. Okay, any questions, any speakers? I'll put the motion. All in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against?
Aye.
Carried. Nine point 17.1, the minutes of other bodies and committees. The Cradle Coast Authority Representatives Committee held the 14th of May. The unconfirmed minutes. We have a move and a seconder.
So moved, Mr Mayor. Deputy Mayor Duniam.
Thank you.
Second, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Highland, seconded. Any speakers, any questions? I'll put the motion. All in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Item 9.17.2, the Waratah-Wynyard Council Audit Panel Committee meeting held the 9th of June. The recommendation there that the council note the unconfirmed minutes.
So moved, Mayor.
Councillor Bramish,
I'll second that, Mr Mayor. Deputy Mayor Duniam.
gotcha. Any questions, any speakers? I'll put the motion. All in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. That's that. And hang on, I missed one, Mr. Chair. Closure of the meeting to the public. At this stage, we'll be going off record, I guess, and the time being 7:55. And recommendation that resolved by absolute majority that we go into closed meeting to consider the following. Oh, first of all, that the council resolves that matters listed below be considered in the closed meeting.
So moved, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Highland moved.
Second it, Mr Mayor.
Deputy Mayor Duniam. I'll put that motion. All in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. The council resolves by absolute majority now that we go into closed meeting to consider the following matters.
So moved, Mr Mayor.
Deputy Mayor Duniam.
Yep.
Second, Councillor Highland. I'll put that motion. All in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Okay. Attendance is as is. Apologies as is. Leave of absence previously approved. Nil. Confidential.